Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here.
And Blue Dragon 5.
In honor of Black History Month, we like to pay tribute and showcase the great defining Black characters and figures the world has come to love.
This year we're honoring an actor we recently lost who famously paved the way for black excellence in Hollywood, the great Sidney Poitier. To do it right and see him off proper, we're highlighting four of his iconic contributions to cinema.
So, without further delay, let's explore the history of In the Heat of the Night and find out why they call him Mr. Tibbs.
Mr. Tibbs.
On the season finale of Black History Heroes 2022. All right, Dragon, here we are. Possibly Sidney Poitier's most iconic movie. I feel like we've gone through a straight up Mount Rushmore of his work. I've got to tell you, I'm in a really classic cinema mode right now myself. I'm going through the all the Disney animation canon. That's been fun. But Dragon, I don't know. I've really loved all these movies to certain levels. All four of them that we've seen. This one, it is the fourth out of four if we are ranking them, and I know that's probably not a popular opinion at all. Oddly enough, Dragon, thinking more about it, I would probably put To Sir with Love as my number one, and that's probably an even more unpopular opinion. But Dragon, I will say all these movies are great. All these movies are obvious landmarks, pillars of his career. It's like ranking diamonds. But this one, I got to admit, there is obviously a lot of fantastic stuff in here. I feel like at its best moments, it's straight up Hitchcockian. It's in its suspense. I do think it is very high concept for its time. Kind of like reinventing the film noir, but having racism as kind of like a big overtone to it. I definitely think out of all the stuff that we watch personally, it's obvious, for sure by a country mile, got the biggest actual racial undertones to it. And I will say that I think once again Sidney Poitier teams up with a really powerful supporting character, Giuseppe. Man, Giuseppe's got a really I don't know if I'm saying that.
Gillespie, Tiki, like Dizzy Gillespie.
Gillespie. Yeah, okay. Yeah, he was kind of like the surprise gem, Dragon. We'll kind of get there, but he has a speech towards the end of the movie, and I almost kind of felt like, that guy's been our hidden weapon all along. It all ties together now as far as the emotional arc goes. So yeah, Dragon. Overall, I came upon it really, really liking it. I think the third act really sings, Dragon. It does. As the title suggests, In the Heat of the Night, some of that finale is straight up Hitchcockian. I will say that I do think, mystery and this kind of stuff, it's not really my first thing when it comes to genre. And I find myself, especially in a story like this, where there's just a lot of characters, a lot of suspects, a lot of, Dragon, say it with me,
Red herring.
Red herrings. Yes, a lot of red herrings. I don't know, I got a little bit lost in it. I'm not gonna lie. I kind of wish I had time to do a rewatch of this. I think it would have kind of put the pieces together a bit more for me. But obviously, Poitier, what do you want from me? The man can act his heart out. He can act his way out of a paper bag with his hands tied behind his back. He's an icon. He's a trailblazer. What more do you want, Dragon? Let's just get into it. What do you think?
Yeah, so I think this is one of Sidney Poitier's best films. But again, what is that saying? You throw a rock, the man could win an Oscar. If you want to be frank, he at least deserves an Oscar for practically all the movies he's acted. I mean, honestly, out of our lineup, it's just crazy that in the man's career is only nominated twice. He won once and he was nominated twice. It's crazy how that works. All the movies that he did. Anyway, so I mean, my introduction in the heat of the night was I kind of mentioned this briefly at the time was the show Psych. There was this running gag all throughout Psych because they're kind of essentially like police consultant detectives. The whole
Uh-huh.
psychic gimmick. Not really psychic, just pretending to be psychic, being the gag. Anyway, it's Dule Hill who often is. They always give him funny nicknames and stuff, and like funny runners. And in this case, so often would they pull they Sean would call him Mr. Tibbs, or he'd tee him up for the big Mr. Tibbs. And what do they call you? They call
They
me
call me
Mr.
Mr.
Tibbs.
Tibbs.
So that's the thing. There's like a lot of Poitier love on Psych all the time. So I kept hearing that
Honestly,
Mr. Tibbs
Dragon, I
line.
feel like as far as pop culture goes, I feel like that line is like it towers so far beyond the rest of the movie. It's almost kind of like overpowering to the rest of it.
See, I knew this movie for three reasons. One is the Mr. Tibbs line, which again has permeated pop culture through something like Psych. That was the main thing I
Uh-huh,
knew that
uh-huh.
line from. And of course, it would pop up in other places. But that was like always like, oh man, Dule Hill doing a Sidney Poitier, nice. Then there's the famous slap, which we'll get to. It's like a big. That's
Oh man. Oh yeah, for
basically it's
sure.
between the Mr. Tibbs line and the slap is why this movie is well remembered as it is to many degrees. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff in this movie. Those two are definitely the big iconic moments of the film. And then you have the TV show, which I had not really watched intimately, but always weird me. Like, wait a minute, there's a movie called In the Heat of the Night, and there's a series called In the Heat of the Night. What's going on here? And Carol O'Connor. Why does Rod Steiger look so much like Carol O'Connor? What's
Oh
going on
god.
here? Anyway, so the movie's always kind of on my mind with that, but I've never been able to seek it out, just aside from just a curiosity with like, okay, I get it. It's like it's the whole we have a black detective in times where that's kind of frowned upon, or like black detective in kind of a southern setting, which I had not watched the show, but I'm assuming that's I assume that would be like the recurring premise of that show. That would be like their monk-esque OCD concept, like it's
Right,
the
yeah,
gimmick,
for
that's
sure,
what.
for sure.
Anyway, so this movie itself, though, it's great, and I think it's a great and more so tense mystery story with a heck of a climax. The climax, again, as you can tell, kind of a little bit by our poster image here, again, is like it's the money, like it's the chef's kiss
It
part
really
of the
is.
film.
I feel like the whole movie, like from the title alone, is kind of like a slow burn to get to that moment.
Yeah, I want to make sure it went with like a nighttime image because this felt kind of wrong if it went with like
Oh
the
yeah,
bus
for
station
sure,
or
for
something.
sure.
Because as much as I like the bus station scene, it's like no, it has to be in the heat of the night.
And you know what, Dragon? Looping that back into my thesis, just really quick, a little asterisk I need to add is that I honestly, like when this movie first started, I thought the whole premise was like, okay, he's like, it's like 12 midnight now. He's got 12 hours. I almost thought it was going to be like a 24 kind of like real time, like he had to solve this mystery in one night. I was just like, I was thrown off at first when we had like a multiple day thing going on and there were scenes in the day. I was kind of hoping the whole thing would take place at night.
Yeah, but there is a ticking clock at work, though, for
There
sure.
is, there is. I don't know. That is aesthetically one thing where it's like when we hit, like the point where we hit that on foot chase scene in the daytime, I kind of got thrown out of it a little bit. I was like,
Yeah, but you
oh,
wouldn't have like the whole town like in the period of like just so many hours aren't going to get that crazy. At least I hope they wouldn't get that crazy over just a few hours versus like he's there for a couple days.
I
That's
mean,
not
that's
really.
totally fine. Yeah, that's totally understandable.
Anyway, so speaking to that, so again, just the heck of a climax that ultimately depicts racism so unflappably honest and just as seeing it work against our protagonist is just so palpable just throughout the movie and just especially building to that climax. Just it was just
Mahershala
amazing.
Ali and Viggo Mortensen are just over there shedding
What?
single
Come
tears.
on! Every time? Come
Yeah, every
on!
time because it's so much better.
Why do you gotta be so petty? Why you just gotta go out of your way to put it down? Why can't you just let it be?
Because it's like the worst best picture winner since Crash.
Oh, come on. There are other worse best picture
Maybe
winners.
King's Speech.
Come on. That's what I'm saying. Like, come on. Why you
Yeah,
gotta
okay, King's Speech is fair. I'll give you that one. I'll give you that one.
stop being all
All right,
film snobby?
anyways.
Let's just talk about a movie without getting to it has to be better than the other ones that have come. Like, come on.
All right.
Anyway. So the point being,
Greg, it's just a running gag at this point. I mean no ill will.
anyway.
I see a running gag, I go with it.
The point being, Sidney Poitier. Apparently, this was his favorite film of his, by the way. Just gonna
Oh, I could
speak.
totally
Yeah,
see it.
Yeah, and I argue possibly. I mean, I love the roles that we've talked about with him so far, especially with To Serve with Love. But I argue this is his best role out of the bunch. So there's a lot of really good stuff here. I love
Dragon,
how
I
he
feel
plays
like To
off.
Sir with Love for me is like the fan favorite because it's just so sentimental and I can really relate to a lot of it.
I think
You know,
everyone's
it's kind
go-to.
of like the indie coming of age movie of his career.
I gotta be honest, Tig. I don't think you're alone in just having a mad love for To Serve, because everyone just seems to really love To Serve with Love. Everyone who's heard about it or come
Everyone
across it,
who's
there's
actually
like
seen it, yeah, yeah.
everyone who's seen it, there's an instant love because people. I think everyone knows about Mr. Tibbs, but beyond that, it's like everyone, like anyone who's seen
I
To
will
Serve with Love.
also say that Virgil Tibbs is kind of like the closest that pop culture has come to a Black James Bond in a lot of ways. Would you agree with that?
I mean, the detective thing kind of complicates that comparison, but I see what you're
No,
getting
no,
at,
no. I'm
though.
just saying, like, it's not a one-on-one, but I'm just saying, as far as like a big, like, pop culture, like, like, I don't know, like, Bond is a secret agent. This guy's a detective. Obviously they're from two different worlds, but I don't know. I still think he has, like, just the fact that he carries a franchise.
I think the point you're getting is like there's an iconic status with that character.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, and the fact there is like
Like,
oddly
it
a trilogy.
extends beyond just this one movie, not only with the Mr. Tibbs line, but through other sources of media.
Exactly. So let's see. Yeah. Just of course, I love his intensity in scenes. So I love how he's played the intensity and everything. But we'll get into that. So yeah. So on the whole, I love In the Heat of the Night. I mean, I just think it's been kind of we haven't hit a miss out of the four on the whole. So I think we've just been hitting really good Poitier films. So I
Oh
love
yeah,
that.
I think the selection was super on point, Dragon, for sure. Like I said, it's like the only hang up I have is like, well, if I had to rank them somewhere, this would be at the bottom. But again, it's like Dragon, it's literally like ranking the faces on Mount Rushmore,
I'm going to
It's
go as far as this. These are the films that additionally should have gotten Poitier Oscars, but they didn't.
right, right.
All right.
All right. So where do you want to start? I guess we have some background, of course. Go for it.
Very interesting background.
For sure.
Okay, so this is based. So In the Heat of the Night is based on a novel from '65 by a guy named John Ball. Sorry, John Ball. The book got a lot of acclaim. Basically, again, just seeing how strong the story was, and like how again this was really racy for like while you're in the '60s, commenting on all the the racism that the '60s facing. That's really trying to downplay at that time, but we don't really acknowledge at that time. So it was big. So they had a director Norman. I'm not making this name up, folks. I swear to God, Norman Jewison. Norman Jewison. It was a director who did things such as Fiddler on the Roof and one of my favorites, And Justice for All. I mean, basically, for anyone who loves Better Call Saul, you should watch And Justice for All without Pacino. You really should.
Pacino, you say?
Yeah, with Pacino. Yeah, it's Pacino in '79. It's really good. It was. Yeah, that
Peak
was.
Pacino.
That's what I'm saying. This was like Pacino. Yeah, after The Godfather. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, it's basically imagine Pacino playing kind of like a kind of Jimmy McGill, only with more of a moral arc. That's kind of essentially kind of what it is.
Okay, I gotta tell you, Dragon, that sounds super tantalizing.
Yeah. So yeah, seriously, it's really good. Anyway, it's where the famous line came from, Tiki, and the whole "You're out of order, they're out of order, this whole court."
Oh, okay, yeah, for sure.
Okay, so point being,
Dragon, I gotta
we
tell
have,
you, like I said, with my Disney rewatch, I'm kind of like getting more open to like, you know what? I'm gonna check that off the list of things I haven't seen yet.
yeah. So point is
All
to get a
right.
really good director on this. And in '64, Poitiers, they kind of I kind of made some assumptions the last episodes to kind of correct some of that here and just get it right, or at
Oh
least a little bit.
no. You know
Well,
what
no,
they say about assumptions, Dragon.
yes, I do. So
Sorry.
the point being, it was just a little vague about it, but just to get maybe a little bit more specific. So in '64, Poitier, I believe, won the Oscar for Lilies of the Field. That's when he won the Oscars in terms
Okay.
of chronology. So anyway, he was the point being he was gaining traction. So I made the assumption that perhaps he had leading roles, but not landmark leading roles. So that's kind of what I kind of skewed over. So he did get leading roles after, before '67.
That was Lily of the Valley. Was that a supporting Oscar?
No, I believe that's leading.
Lead. Okay.
I believe, yeah. So the point, even before that, he had leading. Was my point. So he had been done leading roles, but nothing as acclaimed until the Oscar.
Sure,
And even
sure.
so, like basically after the Oscar was like you.
I
Just,
mean, Dragon, let's face it. It's like the man came out with a, I keep saying it's like 67 was crazy for him.
Yeah.
So it's like any actor would take a leap forward in that, in that year, no matter how successful their career was beforehand.
Exactly. So again, 67 was the iconic Jim Carrey year for
I
Poitier.
still think it's Florence Pugh 2019.
I mean, literally, Jim Carrey, three
That's what
movies saying
instantly springs to mind for me.
fine,
The
fine,
traction for it.
fine, whatever you say, Snowflake. Anyway, so point being, I believe the 67 kind of streak started with To Serve with Love. You had this in the middle, and then you had Guess Who's Coming to Dinner kind of rounding it out. That's how those three films, that's kind of the release was on that. So this shoot in particular, assumedly because the book was so acclaimed, like in Poitier wins the Oscar, okay, there's only one man to put in this film. We have to get Poitier to adapt this book.
Oh, yeah, he was the obvious choice from the get-go.
And again, it's like the book comes out a year after he wins the Oscars.
You imagine
like
if
faded.
he didn't play this role?
Well, I mean, then I just say, well, it's like the end of the night TV show. We got a different guy to play the role.
Okay, goddamn, that's a fair point. Thanks.
wouldn't be as great though.
Thanks for humbling me, Dragon. But you're right. I'm just saying, like, yeah, I could imagine that. It's literally right there.
Yeah. I don't know how many seasons it went on for, but it happened. So okay, but here's where things get interesting. So this is a very tricky shoot. This is where it kind of gets scarily art imitating life here. So
oh no. Oh god.
So when they shot this, so they shoot.
Dragon,
I believe,
that sounds like a biopic, man.
I know. So so they shot in so the story takes place, I believe, in Sparta, Mississippi. Am I correct? That's Sparta. That's what it's called.
Sparta. Yeah.
So Sparta, this is Sparta, Mississippi.
I know, right? The name is kind of ironic in that regard, given the plot.
What's even crazier, this is going to get crazy and then get scary. So they couldn't shoot in the actual Sparta, Mississippi, because remember, this was shot in the 60s. Again, the story takes place probably in 65, and it's just 2 years later. So, so basically, they would be shooting Mississippi in the South in the 60s, so they could not shoot there because Poitier and his buddy, Harry Belafonte, another black icon who's wonderful, Harry Belafonte, they were in the South one time. I guess they're like doing something, or maybe on tour doing something of some variety, maybe a movie, who knows. They were together working on something, and the KKK went after them.
Oh wow! Damn.
So basically, yeah, so they could not go to the place that the book takes place in. Which again, you imagine that's a big obstacle to overcome. Like, oh god, like it's the whole story is set in a very set back town, and we got to go there for a movie So what they did is they went to a different Sparta, not Sparta, Mississippi, but Sparta. There's another Sparta, Illinois, apparently, to shoot the majority of it. But the scary thing, which we'll get into a little bit later, is there's one scene in the movie they could not shoot outside of essentially of Sparta, Mississippi, basically outside of the South. They had to shoot one scene in the movie absolutely in the South, which you can imagine was a very tense shoot.
Which scene was that?
That was the plantation scene.
Oh man!
So again, already I'm sure it's not scratching the right itches right there when you're just like, hey, let's go to the plantation scene. It's gonna be a cozy shoot,
right?
So yeah, that was definitely like Poitier. Famously, he the way the story is told is he slept with a gun under his pillow. It was a very scary shoot. Like again, like people were after him. If they knew he was in town, they would have come after him.
Jesus,
I know, right? Scary. Anyway, so they shot. Basically, it was the insisted. Okay, we got to shoot as much, if not all, the film in the north, kind of the northern side of things. Because if we're in the south, it's going to be too close for comfort to what our story's talking about.
Crazy,
right? All right. So originally they wanted George C. Scott for the Gillespie role, but he was busy with something, so he got Rod Steiger. Now I know.
Oh man, I mean Steiger's great, but George C. Scott. Oh god, I could totally see that. Oh, he would have been perfect.
I gotta tell you, it was the trippiest thing because I'm so used to what I have seen of the show of Carroll O'Connor as the chief character. So just seeing like, man, this guy looks like cast. It's so heady because I'm thinking Carroll O'Connor. Why does this guy look like Carroll O'Connor? But no, it's Carroll O'Connor supposed to look like Rod
It's
Steiger.
the total opposite way around. Yeah.
I know it's just very very heady. But I know Rod Steiger from. There's this movie. It's another old movie. It's one of the older biopics, Tiki. It's called W.C. Fields and Me, about the comedian W.C. Fields, and I believe it's one of those biopic things where it's either an imagined relationship or like a speculated relationship over the years he had with somebody, and that's where the and me comes in.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so point me, he played W.C. Fields very well in that film. Anyway, So this is also one of the first times lighting was considered for a black actor in a film. We're like, okay, well, we have to light black actors differently. At least, because we never
Which is
considered
kind of
that.
funny because I just assumed that, like with the lighting, it's just really good because it's a noir.
Which again, I mean, think about it, because you're doing a noir and you're shooting it all the good stuff essentially at night. You got to be really careful how you
Right.
shoot things, otherwise you're going to lose your lose your player. And you're not shooting in black and white, so you can't just say, "Oh, look at how artistic it is." Like, no, you gotta you're going to lose the light on your actor.
Mhm.
So again, something they kind of realized, yeah, we gotta consider this. The film was a big hit, not in the 60s era South Africa, as you can probably imagine. Poitier, the South Africa never liked any of Poitier's films, by the way, never liked them.
Yeah, you've mentioned that a couple times.
Yeah, it'd been like a building thing, and like the '67 was not a popular year for Poitier in South Africa.
Oh
I'll tell you
man.
that much. Yeah, they really didn't like his stuff. Again, they really didn't like To Serve with Love, and I'm sure they didn't like this. So believe it or not, To Serve with In the Heat of the Night is a trilogy of films,
Oh, I
technically,
could believe it.
and an MTV series. So definitely had a following. Had spin-offs. The trilogy.
Was Poitier in all three of the movies?
Yeah, he was in all three of the movies, but
Okay,
they were
that's
not
cool.
as
That's what I'm talking about with the James Bond comparison.
reportedly they were not as good as the first one though. But
Oh, I'm
then
sure.
again,
I'm sure they weren't. Yeah.
plus they made like a big continuity mistake, I think, in the second one, where it's like he doesn't have a wife, but like I've been married. Like, well, that's a big mistake right there. What do we, it's like a whole big scene between the two of them. I was like, hey, no, he's alone. This is the opposite of that.
Uh-huh.
All right, now Steiger. So Steiger in the film, and I think maybe the director won the Oscar for this in '67, but Poitier didn't because, and this is so unfair, because he was in three movies in the same year. That I just think they made the choice not to nominate him for anything because they were afraid he would have like poisoned the well or something. I was like, it's too. Now we don't worry about that at all, but back then they did, which is crazy.
All right.
Yeah. So yeah, that's it. So let's just get into the movie.
Okie dokie. So, what do you think of the theme song? Do you like it better than the To Sir with Love theme song?
Well, no, but it's, no. I mean, look, it's I think I prefer.
I actually kind of do like it a little bit better, if I'm being honest.
I mean, I think I prefer the song in general, but in terms of like an opening, I mean, I think
That's what I'm saying. Like, it fits the mood, and I'm sorry, Dragon. Shots for every time I say this. It kind of has a Bond vibe to it.
No, sure. What I really like about the opening is less the song, more so I think it's such a great introduction to Virgil Tibbs, just a black man in like a train station who we just see having a very negative police encounter here as he's arrested just for doing nothing, just having cash in his wallet, very literally, that's all.
Yeah, and right off the bat, it does kind of like sweep you up and like, okay, like this is going to be not a very fun experience for this character.
Yes, but I love, especially on a rewatch, Tiki, you can imagine. Just one, I love how Sidney Poitier is conveying everything with silence here, where he's holding it in. He has a trump
Kind of
card.
like one of the trademarks of his repertoire.
But yeah, I think he doesn't say anything until he is like greeted by his other, the other half in the film with Rod Steiger. He does not say a word until that scene. He's very silent because he's not. But the love that he's silent because he has the trump card that he's just kind of he's kind of desperate to say. He's just waiting for. He's waiting for. He has like the response he's been withholding the whole time just to bring down the room.
Totally. Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
God, that would probably play really well in a rewatch. Come to think of it,
it's really
I
cool.
would have gotten a rewatch in.
It's a boss opening, man. It's really cool.
Uh-huh.
So Virgil meets Gillespie. So the dynamic of the film, so much so. What do you think of it? These two mixing up?
I mean, look, I think like out of the four, I think it's probably the weakest, but it's still really damn good, man. It's still really damn good.
It's funny.
I like that it's realistic. Again, I'm sorry, but Dragon, he's actually racist. That's the difference between this and Green Book. I'm sorry.
You really can't help yourself. It's like a sickness with you. You always got to bring Green Book in there.
I'm sorry. But you know what I mean, though? It's like, this guy is genuinely racist, and by the end, it's like, it's not that he's not racist anymore. He's just kind of like come to, I don't know. I like that it's a really subtle arc, and it's not that he comes to become a better person. It's more so that you see the humanity within him in spite of himself. Is that a good way to put it?
I mean, it's a kind of a roundabout way, but I think so. Yeah, it's what you're saying is absolutely right in that when he gets to the end, the racism's not going to be cured in this man because it's not like he's a young buck who's like having his eyes open for the first time. It's like
Right,
his
yeah.
perspective's been altered, but still there's a lot of there's a lot of institutional kind of stuff that's kind of been built in there where it's like he has his perspective's been broadened, but it's not going to change. I mean,
But by the same token, like I said, I think the most powerful thing about him is I just kind of gotta chew into it now with talking about his character. I loved that monologue, man. That whole scene with him. Like you're a rare breed, Tibbs. This is the first time I've let anyone in here, I think. And then talking about loneliness, Dragon, that hit me, man. That really hit me. Like that, I feel like once again, it's like this guy almost has just as far as the script goes, not as far as the plot goes, because Tibbs obviously has like the plot trump card nailed down. But I think his monologue here towards the end of the third act. I mean, Dragon, it's the 11th hour number in musical terminology. I feel like it really does bring the house down.
Well, I mean, what's really great about that scene to me, it's like a little moment at the end where after he confesses the loneliness and he asks him like, "Do you have anyone? Are you married? Like almost married? Almost." And don't get lonely points? We're all lonely or something along those lines, and it stirs up a reaction in Steiger that's so great, where he basically says like, "Hey, don't pity me," or like, "I don't want pity. I don't want your pity."
Yeah.
And, like no pity, thank you. That's what he says. No pity, thank you. And what he's saying, what that conveys is he forgot the state of the world just for a bit again. And it's like there's two moments in the movie where he kind of has like a genuine moment of shock, where you have three if you count the slap, which is quite obvious. But besides the slap, you have like that, and you have the moment where Tibbs is really hung up on getting Endicott, where he says like, "You're just like the rest of us, ain't you?" Like that was a great moment where it's like the genuine surprise of seeing racism from the other side. Like that's what it looks like. Oh my god!
Yes. Yeah, I'm glad you're bringing that up because I definitely think that's one of the things that this movie addresses that a lot of movies of this kind kind of don't really want to dab their toe into, and this one goes kind of full force into it.
That's the strength of the movie, Tiki. It's ridiculously progressive without like changing the
I
game.
feel like this movie is progressive now.
I know. Yes, that's yeah. I mean, this is kind of stuff like we like recently, kind of like the Peacemaker show is kind of getting into with people are not going to necessarily change, but like there are like kind of Venn diagrams of crossover you can have between two very different people.
Totally.
And anyway, so yeah, and the other bit of show just like forgot like the state of the world for like, hey, I forgot that there was a difference between us for a moment until I just saw like you're kind of getting to the heart of who I am, but I have to put up the wall again. Like no pity from you. No, we took sides. Yeah. But the thing I wanted to mention though with the Gillespie character, and this is it's kind of very on the nose. I mean, not in a bad way. I'm just saying that when you look at it, just given literally this is the pattern in which these movies came out. Apparently, we're in the heat of the night's right in the middle. I love that he's kind of in the middle of the of kind of our at least two of our Poitier films in between the Defiant ones, and you have Guess Who's Coming to Dinner at the end in terms of your the white kind of co-star, in which we have like in terms of the respect that's built between them, where he doesn't go all the way into like a full-on respect. This is my future son-in-law. Give him a hand, folks. Like, we're not going that far.
Right. Yeah. At the end of the day, that's pretty much what Guess Who's Coming to Dinner is.
But I like that. That's what I'm saying, though. In terms of like, you have a guy who like is like on two ends of the spectrum. A guy who's very flagrantly kind of racist, who then has an arc in the Defiant ones, to this guy in the middle who's like not all the way coming out of it, but he's very progressive compared to everyone else in the town. So I like that he's right in the middle in terms of like these three of these films that we've talked about. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, and it's kind of what I was saying, where it's like Poitier plays different levels of like working class black man, like the upper tier kind of top of society one with when Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, all kinds of different tiers here of what he's playing into with black society. And I think that's really telling too. I really think he picks and chooses different points and different perspectives in Black society very deliberately when we look at his career, I think.
Oh, absolutely. Something with Gillespie too is they kind of broaden back into the plot and everything, but just in general, what I really like about their dynamic is in the first scene they share together. Once we realize the faux pas that has happened, thanks to old Sammy boy, um, we the dynamic really is after he learns that like he makes $162.39 a week. He kind of realizes that, especially after speaking with his chief for a bit, I guess, is that he's smart. This is a smart, stern, and determined guy. And I think he kind of like there's a respect that he just can't acknowledge to that. Like, man, this guy makes more than I do. He must be really good, and I'm really under. Basically, it's kind of like the small town mentality of my guys are good guys, but they're not necessarily good at their jobs, and that they're loyal and they're boys, but they're not really good at their jobs. I need someone who's really good at their job because this is a very important guy who was murdered in town. The guy who runs like the factory business, Philip Cobert. So I really, and it kind of builds sort of like kind of a more racist kind of like a little bit more racist kind of Gordon Batman dynamic, if you will. In which
Right,
it's like
totally.
Tibbs is a means to an end. It's like a more kind of at odds version of Batman and Gordon, where it's like, well,
That's
we
a
have
great
to
way to
work
put
together.
it, yeah.
Because it is like we have to work together. I can't condone necessarily, and more so everything about you versus how you do things. But it's like I can't condone it, but we got to work together. And there is a respect that grows there, and ultimately one could argue a friendship by the end. But again, a friendship they can never acknowledge, which is interesting. Anyway, so speaking of the investigation. I love how we shoot the investigation scenes in this. I can't really explain why. Did you have this? Did you like how they shot any like when he's go looking at the crime scenes and the body and stuff? Did you?
Yeah, definitely. I definitely think it has. It feels ahead of its time, Dragon. It feels very modern in the way it tells its story, I think.
I can't explain it, but it feels like the camera is just very in tune with the detective as he searches the body and looks for clues. Because it looks.
This is going to sound like a totally cliche comparison, but it's got a little bit of a Fincher energy to it.
I mean, yeah, I guess that's a way of putting it. Yeah, sure, I guess that's a way of putting it. But what I was going to say is like it feels like really smooth. Like it feels almost like a wonder in terms of like the camera tracks him as he's like
Fincher
we're not cutting.
uses a lot of wonders, so.
Well, yeah, sure, fine. It's very Fincher-esque, Happy. So
yes, I am happy. All right,
fine, sorry. It's Fincher. Point being, I like that it's it's like his eyes looking on the body, and it's all in those I assume wonders. Like we're not just cutting to everything like CSI style, like cut to it, zoom in.
Dun-dun.
Well, that's more Law and Order, but sure.
Yeah, I know.
Anyway,
Law and Order knew how to make a jump cut, Dragon. That's the way to do a classy, like memorable jump cut.
See, because we're meant to talk about Law and Order, I really want you to watch Resident Alien, but I know this is not the time to ask for that. So, but again, I like how we're finding almost like trace evidence and like small details again, very very fluidly and very naturally, which pays off.
Again, Dragon, I have to emphasize that I really like on my end. I really wish I could have seen this a second time. I didn't really realize how valuable a second watch would have been because. I got to tell you, just, like watching this the first time, I was kind of having a hard time keeping track of everything. There were a lot of moving parts.
I mean, of course, the biggest one being we tee up a big suspect at the top with Pie.
I'm not going to lie, Dragon. That guy, he was kind of like, I kind of thought he was a red herring suspect. Like, I got red herring vibes from him from the start. That
I mean, me too.
Like,
when they threw off the scent, where you had like he's just being racist to him in the diner, like okay, he's going to be just kind of a skeezy guy. All right, there.
Right, yeah.
But a little more to that guy. Basically, go with your first instinct after all, kids.
Yeah, that's a good lesson, actually.
Yeah. All right. So speaking of which, we have our red herrings and our suspects. Basically, we find
red herring.
What is it, Jones? I'm watching a movie. All right, so the police find a suspect who stole Colbert's money, and this is where Tibbs really kind of takes a stand here. It makes like the whole left to right hand kind of point and observation in the investigation here. He's built some trust with the widow, and this I love how respectful he is. He tries to inform the chief and like the other, and like, can we talk in private for a second here? And he's like, no, we have the guy right here. He has the dead man's wallet.
Yeah, I really like that. I feel like that is the part of the movie where it really gets going. Dragon is that conflict right there. I feel like that's kind of like the the divide, kind of like the line in the sand, if you will.
I mean, I loved it when Tibbs like refused to like hand them over because he knew they were going to corrupt that FBI evidence of like, the evidence he was going to send to the FBI crime lab just to make sure it didn't get tampered with and everything. Like, no, I don't trust you guys because you want to make an easy arrest. Of course, got him thrown in cells. He keeps getting thrown in cells. This Tibbs, man, I feel so bad for him.
But you know what I like about it too, like on top of everything, in spite of how heroic he's been, Dragon, this guy is a regular Dante Hicks. He's not even supposed to be there today.
Exactly. I love you're right. One of the great recurring things throughout this whole film is that he does not want to be here. He just he literally just came here to visit his mother. That's the only reason he was in this town. Just passing through, getting on a train, and they wouldn't let him go. And he gets roped into this, and it's like
I'm pretty sure he's not even passing through the town. Like basically, what he's doing is he's transferring from train to train.
I mean, sure, yeah. It sounds
so. It's like he's not even spending any time in the town proper from his itinerary.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. I hate to think that his mother lives here.
No, I don't think so, because we saw him getting off the train.
Yeah, and if his mother was there, then clearly he could just live with her, stay with her, which is not the case.
No, but I'm just saying, I'm thinking his mother lives a town away from this train.
I think you're right about that. What I'm saying, yeah.
All right. Sorry.
Anyway. So, also we have the first use in the movie of the N-word when we have we have the big. I completely forgot. That's what starts off the Tibbs line. Mm-hmm. That's why it gets all. That's where.
Well, I mean, I feel like that's kind of like a big part of why it's so iconic, right? Because I feel like it's not just the cool delivery; it's the context of it.
Yeah, but it's funny though. I never got it with the full context every time. It was always touted up they called me. It was just basically because of the diction. They call me
MISTER Tibbs.
It's always the diction on Poitier, which of course is his signature, dignified style. They call me MISTER Tibbs.
Right. Yeah.
But no, it's a great iconic response to all the boys and everything they keep lobbing at him, and obviously the N-word and the whole. Yeah, it was really. Yeah, it just really showed you how important that line was. Again, kind of similar to how important the slap was. Again, it really stood for something as well as just being a cool moment. Look at Poitier slap that sucker. Yeah. More to it. And again, I think ultimately, just with that and with that big line to mention here, is that the movie ultimately is kind of it's a plea without being really on the nose or eye rolly. It's a plea to a general audience. I feel an optimistic plea to the audience of the '60s to see how dumb racism is, in that this guy's doing all the work, no respect at all, and you're rooting for him. These Sisyphus with the boulder going up the mountain. I just want to get on my train. I just gotta push this stupid boulder up so I can go on my train.
Oh my god! Yeah, totally.
Yeah. All right, let's see. So, speaking of the train station, so after everything's kind of said and done here, and basically we're in a position where we need Tibbs to solve the murder. Steiger, basically the beleaguered chief. Which, by the way, I love there's this beleaguered chief and amidst the heat wave, just dealing with all this. He can't even get his air conditioner oiled, which is what you had to do.
I will say the heat wave does kind of lend some atmosphere to the daytime scenes.
Oh, I forgot to mention this in the background. I'm just gonna tell you it now. Heat wave. Completely faked, as in it was cold. It was August when they it was autumn, not August. It was autumn when they shot this.
Also, Dragon, as far as background goes, I've got a casting for Poitier. Would you like to hear it?
Do you mean for this Poitier biopic thing?
Yes.
Who do you got?
Kaluuya.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah. You think so?
Yeah, I'm maybe it's between that and Sterling K. Brown. I think that's probably.
Sterling is a good one too.
My instinct is maybe Sterling K. Brown, but I can't fight Kaluuya. Those are two excellent choices.
Yeah. I'm just saying Kaluuya already has biopic gold under his belt, so
that's the thing. So it's
yeah.
It's kind of hard to say. Those would be the two go-tos.
All right. Anyways.
All right, so point being all of that heat had to be completely manufactured because they had to use ice chips to get rid of the breath in the scenes. The fact that they set it during a heat wave, it's crazy.
All
right, so you get a sense that, as I said earlier, so again, you get a sense that there's a respect to this guy, but with the system in place and with the upbringing that this guy's had, it tethers him back on the surface from embracing him. where he can't just say, "Hey, man, you're really cool. Can you help us out on this?" He's got to say, like, do it for your fellow, for your
yeah.
for
He's
your
got to like
fellow
kind of
black
just
man.
tiptoe around everything that he does. Yeah.
Exactly, and basically it's the stakes are put into play here with Colbert. He runs it's a factory town, so 1,000 jobs were going to be offered. Most of those being black jobs. So mistaken like your people. Like, oh no, I love what he called it. I was like, no, your people. I've had up to here with this town. Then
I feel like that's one of the big, like the big racial line of the movie almost.
Yeah.
Like Mr. Tibbs is obviously the iconic line, and it is very racially driven because of the N-word for sure. But no, they're your people. Like that's the big FU moment,
I love that in a scene where we have that, we turn on a dime because Poitier is so freaking good as he always has been. So great. He de-escalates the situation after we have like, boy, I would get a world of satisfaction to horsewhip you.
Oh man, yeah.
But again, it's like he just hears kind of his father in his voice there, with just like it's the de-escalating laugh and charm of Poitier is turning that into like, yeah, we were getting a little heated there. It's not even night, we're getting a little heated, yeah. Basically kind of acknowledging, yeah, and then ultimately the sales pitch of like, yeah, come on, we both know you want to solve this because you're the only one smart enough to do it. There's a little bit of ego at play for you too, isn't it? You just want to show us up because you know you can. What else you got doing? What else are you doing right now? Come on, do it. Go solve a murder with us. Come on.
So I'm going to throw out just a very, very general con that I kind of just noticed throughout the movie. Just it wasn't a very big deal, but it kind of like chipped away at it for some of it.
All right.
We got a little bit of show don't tell going on.
Well, how so?
I mean, I feel like there's at least a few scenes where it's just very long, kind of like, and this is what happened, and this is the motivation, and this is why we got to go after them. And I don't know, it's a little talky.
Well, do you mean tell, don't show in that case, or is it
I
show?
do. Well, I mean, like it's breaking the show don't tell rule.
Oh, okay, I gotcha.
That's what I mean.
Okay, that makes sense, yeah. I mean, a little bit.
I feel like that probably just comes down to like the screenwriting of the time.
I think it's probably kind of the times. Like there's kind of it's certain guys. We're already breaking a lot of rules on this film already, in terms of thematic, in terms of like what we're showcasing, in terms of like we're pushing the edge.
Sure,
so maybe that you're not entirely wrong, because we do get a little expo heavy in terms of what the thing that breaks the case is a little bit. We kind of talk it up.
That was the big one for me. It's not that it's not compelling, because it is. It's just kind of, I don't know. I just feel like maybe it just kind of dragged on a little. It was maybe a little bit longer than it needed to be. I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't know. It's not a big deal. I just felt like, but then again, I feel like some of the best scenes in the movie are obviously dialogue scenes. To me, I think the best scene, as I've already kind of, illustrated, is the, the big kind of like, as I like to call it, the 11th hour number.
Yeah.
With our two leads.
So I like with our two leads after the train station scene where he agrees they stick it out with him. I love that we because this has been a thing we talked about through all the other movies, that the black audiences have interesting reactions to Poitier films.
They do. And Dragon, cue the David Hyde Pierce thing.
Yes, folks. So those who may not caught on by this point of this year, I guess, just Tiki and I, if there were a diagram, it would look exactly like Rabbit in a snowstorm, because we have to isolate. So there's a skier, and that man is not just a skier in a snowstorm. That man is David Hyde Pierce.
Oh,
that man is us. That's basically, if you had like an equation, it'd be Tiki and I equals David Hyde Pierce skiing. We are the whitest white men you'll ever come across. We're more milquetoast than Frasier.
We just need to acknowledge this, because we really like to do the Black History Heroes thing, mostly, honestly, Dreg, because I feel like through our Black History Heroes coverage, we've been able to cover a wide spectrum of things, and I think, obviously, as unfortunate as Poitier's passing was, I think this was a great kind of a great way to pay a month-long tribute to him. So I think the time.
I mean, again, in hindsight, we were going to cover at least Poitier on like if we ever did a Black Figures thing, and he would have been the next guy on our list regardless. So we were going to cover him in some way, shape, or form.
But I think this worked out really well because I really think he does deserve his own season.
Yeah, sadly, it kind of worked out that way, but yeah.
All right. Anyway,
so
what were you saying, Drake? I'm sorry, I kind of got off point there.
Well, the point being the reaction to the Black audience. So it's interesting that after we have that scene where essentially it's like, hey, I'm gonna solve the white guy's problem for him. There are two other Black characters in this film. I like that's only two, and they both serve a very specific role. I think I prefer the latter more than the former, but the point being the former serves an important role nonetheless. Where we have it's assumed that he either stays with the mechanic or the mechanic just sets him up with the car. But we have this Black mechanic character, and I think it's an appropriate scene to basically, we basically acknowledge to the Black audience that Poitier knows this character. Poitier's playing absolutely knows that he's, as he puts it, they need a whipping boy. Basically saying it's kind of like the terminology that's kind of used in the Black community is like you never want to be an Uncle Tom. It's very no bueno. Uncle Tom's not great. And essentially, that it's basically in a matter of speaking, it's kind of like saying I'm not carrying the water, the white man's water, so to speak. Yeah. I'm just gonna be play ball and be a sap essentially. I'm doing the work. I'm doing all the heavy lifting. I'm doing the actual work here. So basically, I need someone to kind of like say, hey, do this and do that while I'm getting the job done. So the fact is that we acknowledge that. So ideally, I suppose the Black audience, for a change with the Poitier films, wouldn't say, he's too perfect. He's too great. Come on. How was that representative? Come on. Why is he saving the guy on the train? That shouldn't have happened. He could have got away. Which again are points, but still, it's like I thought it was a strategic move on the film's part, I guess is what I'm saying.
I mean, I feel like, I do get the perfectionism thing. I really do get that criticism. But, like, at the very least, like, he goes up against, like, some big obstacles in this movie that we have not seen before this point.
That's what I'm saying. We see Poitier, I mean, between him being a convict in the Defiant Ones, and again, in this depiction, it's like, okay, even as James Bondian or just kind of like Black excellent representative as Poitier is on a regular basis, again, being kind of like, the icon to measure up to, one could say, or to what, whatever extent you like to frame that, is that as great as Poitier is, he still has the problems that the Black community has. So it's not like a case of like, always the reductive comment of like, are you still Black even though you've exceeded?
Oh yeah, totally, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, it is
ridiculous. Yeah.
So I love the fact that, again, it's like, yeah, you're absolutely right, Tiki, is that he does, he's still up against insurmountable odds. Like he's literally like I know we have technically three Black characters, but he's like our main Black character up against an entirely white town that all hates him. Even the guy that's on his side doesn't even like him, but he's just,
Right. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So that's, speaking of which, that brings the ticking clock factor at play here, which is just the great mounting tension, the heat of this film. Dear God, just the small town hating, just the mere, and it's not even they hate him for any good reason, which of course they never hate him for any good reason. They hate him just for the mere presence, like just him being there.
It's kind of crazy. It's kind of surreal that was a thing at one point,
It's sad. Again, that's the thing I want to highlight this movie for. It's sadly authentic, but authentic in
it's authentic to the time that they were actually making the damn thing.
And the fact that this movie had the guts to say, yeah, folks, we can't ignore this. This is how it is. This is scary.
Right. Totally.
Like the vulture, and the fact that these vultures are circling them day by day. We have like a Jaws thing with the Confederate flag, license plate on these cars.
It's really good in the way that it kind of builds the suspense in a powerful, kind of like real world, palatable kind of way.
It's like the General Lee version of Duel.
Oh God.
Almost. So, it's like Jordan Peele's remake of Duel.
Oh God. It is. Oh my God.
Anyway, so they treat him like he's radioactive, and of course he's going to solve their problems. And of course, does anyone consider that?
Remake Duel. That's exactly what it would be like, Dragon. I'm sorry, that was a really good on point comparison.
You got to admit, you want to watch.
Oh, I would watch the shit out of that. Are you kidding me?
I know, right?
Oh my God.
So I mean, it's terrifying when they make almost casual like a bet of like, he won't live
No,
past
you're
Saturday.
right. The fact that they're so casual about it is exactly what makes it so scary, for sure.
Just,
It's not over the top. It's more so like it's just how it is. He's not welcome here.
condensing it down to like the line that sounds so assuredly like a promise that he won't live past Saturday.
Yeah. It's very much a darker version of what the Defiant Ones did, where way I see it, they'll kill each other before the first 20 miles.
Yeah, that's a buddy movie team up. Like we're
Totally, yeah.
we're reusing that in the Hitman's Bodyguard. The whole like, they'll kill each other before they get to where they're going. Okay, they got that from the Defiant Ones. It's like this is not the happy-go-lucky version. Like buddy movies.
There's no jazz loving cops in this one, Dragon.
No. Nope.
These cops do not appreciate black culture.
Basically, an answer to Jerry Seinfeld's on the present question: do you like jazz? They would say no.
Oh,
Don't
God.
like jazz. We don't like jazz. We don't like it.
Oh man! All right.
Anyway.
Oh jeez.
So, let's
Greg,
talk
let
about.
me ask you this, just offhand. Do you know if Tarantino has said anything publicly about this film? Because I could see him getting a lot of inspiration from something like this.
Well, I mean, Tarantino is always mentioning movies left and right, and he's made like lists of movies.
Oh,
I
yeah,
be surprised
absolutely.
if this,
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if this popped up on one of those lists. At least he's got at some point he's got to have like listed one of the Poitier films. You got to imagine, given all the stuff that he's done.
Yeah.
So I mean, I would not be surprised, but I can't recall him like verbally saying in an interview, at least from the stuff that I've seen. I've seen it seemed like maybe at least he's done, given how much he's done, maybe 25 to 40% of what he's done.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Okay. In terms of like interviews and stuff. So let's talk the Plantation Visit.
Oh man, yeah, totally.
And again, folks, this was the most dangerous scene of the film. Technically,
isn't it funny that it's also like the climax?
I mean, well, it's kind of like, I don't know if I call it a climax because that literally comes later, but I mean, it's the other tensest moment of the film. For sure.
Oh no, I'm sorry, it's not the climax. You're right. Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, I'm talking about like when he goes to the cotton plantation.
Yeah, I guess it's more so the kind of like the big midpoint almost.
Yes, it is the grand midpoint, sir. Yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Dragon. I'm sorry. I got my wires crossed on that one. My bad.
Don't worry. I know you're itching to get to the climax. We all are, Tiki.
I know.
Okay.
That's exactly what it is. Yeah.
So, point being, we have this plantation. This was the difficult scene to shoot the film because they had to go to an actual plantation. So, again, very old school. The idea that Endicott, which is so crazy because like the bad guy on Prodigal Son's name was Endicott, so just completely forgot that. No idea this guy's name was Endicott. So the idea this guy runs, like if the factory business isn't going, this is the other business the town has, which sadly now it has to lean on now that the guy's gone, at least while they're figuring out what the next move is, I guess. This is a very old school traditional guy in the worst sense of it in the South, where he has like black servants and all black workers picking the cotton, and he's doing that just as a screw you.
Mm-hmm.
They need jobs. I'll give them jobs. They want to work. They want to come to our town. Fine, but they're going to do it the right way, which is just hateful, just mean. So again, so just it's crazy. And then of course we have the slap itself after he insults him, and then again Poitier is just being as controlled and respectful this guy as he can because he hates this guy on principle. We know he hates this guy. He's keeping it so in check, and basically the guy just asks like, "Are you saying I'm a suspect?" Essentially is what he's saying, and just the mere accusation because hey, you didn't like the guy, ergo suspect. He slaps him because a black man has entered his home and said something vaguely derogatory about him.
Right.
In principle, really. Hits him, and Poitier slaps him back. Yeah. So again, second to Mr. Tibbs' most famous scene in the film. And by the way, Sidney Poitier would not agree to do the film if they cut this out of the film. This was very important to him. This scene was huge for him. Like it was like I don't know if it was officially in his contract. Like this scene wasn't in the book, Tiki. They put this in the movie. Yeah. Anyway, powerful moment. You never see it, especially in the '60s. Just hitting back and all that sort of stuff. It was big. I just love that everyone was just utterly gobsmacked. Gillespie too was like, I don't know what to do because the last sheriff would have just shot him on
Yeah,
sight.
I like that. I like that. Like that's a good character beat with him. It's a good kind of like fork in the road almost, where it's like he's got to make a choice if he wants to stand by this guy or not.
And Gillespie, and after they get out of this scene, he's like, "Are you now?" There was already like a window of time before Saturday. That window is now shrunk.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
because
Totally,
this is the guy who sends the Confederate kind of duel guys after him.
totally.
Yeah, he sends him after him because he didn't like that stuff. I love you see him being such a baby about a black man has touched my face. He's being such a whiny baby about it. Anyway, so the ticking clock, just the violence, the violence is just up. The stakes are up with the really scary car chase by our Confederate cars here. I love that Poitier, who again has gone up against the KKK. So again, there's a truth to life element of this scene, I'm sure. And I wonder, Tiki, I wonder if they legally couldn't use the KKK in '67 during this scene. I wonder if they would have gone.
Oh, I would not be surprised if that was the case. Yeah,
it feels like they would have gone that far had they been allowed to do that. I don't know. So it's a 4-on-1 fight, but I love that Tibbs is going down fighting. He grabs a pole and he's gonna do it. It's maybe a little campy fighting for the '60s. I don't know, but still, it was tense. Gillespie breaking up and like putting a fine point on. Hey, I make the rules here. You don't have to say like N-word lover and everything to me. I'm gonna, it's the rules. You don't. I told you enough. That's enough. Don't insult me. So then we get into the talkie segment of the film, which essentially is after some really well shot night stuff, which looks really good, by the way, where we're retracing Sam's route in nighttime. We're basically doing all the stuff he did at the open of the movie, and that leads to Sam being a suspect. And then we have our big pregnancy runner, which is basically takes us to the end, where we have Sam here. He was basically he was going to the diner. He's getting his pie not taken away from him, and he's let's just say he's peeking in on the exhibitionist neighbor Dolores, who essentially is accusing him of rape.
Mm-hmm.
Which basically brings Dolores into our story. So after the, I mean, we've already talked through. I don't think we have to hit Gillespie's house again, but it was a great scene, obviously.
No, you're right. You're right. Yeah, I've sung its praises now for sure.
But the transition, what I like about that after that scene is the fact that they have this moment together, and Gillespie is not saving his bacon again like he did in that factory, like during that like 4-on-1 fight scene. It's like it ups the danger and the stakes. Where Poitier as basically he's found a lead thanks to the other falsely accused guy's friend in jail. Like, hey, he found the abortionist, which is basically the big linchpin. The pregnant girl's the linchpin. Like Harry's friend Packy knows Mama Kelleball, who's the other black character in the film. Who, by the way, played his mom. And guess who's coming to dinner? I don't know if you noticed that or not.
I did notice that actually. Yeah,
crazy, right?
It was a little trippy. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah.
yeah. So the other
I was like, hey, it's like the multiverse of Poitier.
So the other highly taboo topic in the movie, by the way, no one talks about this movie. There's an abortion clinic in this film.
Yeah, it's a linchpin of the plot. Yeah,
I know. Yeah, it's like you can like write it out too. It's like, okay, that's literally what that solves the murder. It's like, we're going where Whitey ain't welcome.
As if the movie wasn't already politically daring enough. I mean, you got to give it credit there for the cojones.
Yeah. And I love the conversation they have, as brief as it is, with again their other kind of black character in the film here, where she poses the question. I'm sure every black authority character, honestly, in real life, probably every black person in a role of authority is going to question at some point, a legal authority's question, like why help the police? At least at some point in their life, just seeing how obviously off the rails things have gone, and just probably since the '60s onward, what have you. It's just I love that the big threat that he uses to get a name out of her, which ultimately kind of amounts to nothing because she just walks in very conveniently. I'll admit it, yeah, she walks in rather conveniently. It's really well timed, but it was a really cool climax, so it's fine. The threat of colored time in jail is far worse than white time in jail. It's like, oh god, that is a terribly accurate threat. Like, oh god.
Yeah, totally.
Anyway, so again, everything's just been perfectly orchestrated here. We're okay. We're not going to bail him out with Gillespie. He's chasing a white woman in a southern town and grabbing her because she's the linchpin to the whole thing. basically solve the murder, and she leads him to the murderer, and then guns are drawn by the bad guy, and it feels like very much a Jordan Peele climax here, kind of like the Jordan Peele Hitchcockian ending, as you kind of put it earlier. Just in darkness, surrounded by everyone, like, oh god, he is so screwed right now. Again, our money shot of the movie, like he basically our lead character has to face down a lynch mob.
Mm-hmm.
Just very.
I mean, it is a very proper climax, Dragon. It's pretty much what the whole movie, with the General Lee car and everything has been building to.
Yeah, and again, like only Poitier could convey. It's like he's gonna be able to have to convey, basically perform for these people, just like, guys, listen to the evidence. There's $100 in a birth. He has to get these very hateful people to believe in him just for a moment to save his skin and catch the killer. And like it's all riding on just that moment, just like that just, and it obviously it pays off. And Tibbs, he stops the gunman after he shoots the girl's brother and everything. And it was the diner guy all along who was hoarding the pie. It was the pie hoarder the whole time with his left hand. That guy. Yep. So anyways, the case is closed. Gillespie, he sees Tibbs off finally, which throughout this whole movie, he's desperate to get him on a train so he doesn't get killed in the climax. Yeah. Essentially, he's like, "Come on, why are you sticking around? Come on, you have the wrong man. You're holding the wrong man." That to me is kind of like the fun Poitier of the film outside of Mr. Tibbs. It's like gonna be, "You're holding the wrong man."
Oh dear.
Anyway,
for sure.
And again, as we kind of said at the top, here's some realistic growth for the time, sadly, where it's like there's no warm goodbye, there's no shaking hands per se.
But there's an acknowledgement, Dragon. That's what I would call it, an acknowledgement, and I feel like that's enough, especially as far as sticking to the realism goes.
Yeah, it's you take care. That's all you get.
Yeah, exactly.
It's all you really need ultimately, because he knew it was a thankless role, basically, because he wasn't supposed to be there at all or any of this. It's just in uncovering.
Wouldn't it be funny if Poitier just faced the camera and was like, "I wasn't even supposed to be here today"?
It would have been very fourth wall.
I know.
Yes. And
that's for you, Kevin.
Thank you, Kevin. Oh, there's actually. Do you remember? There's crossover between Kevin Smith and Poitier, right?
Oh God, is there? Where?
Remember Kevin Smith during his the Fisher story? He went to Sidney Poitier's proctologist.
Oh man! Oh dear!
It was recommended to him.
That's a hell of a crossover, Dragon.
I know, right? But that's the thing. Technically, they have some crossover because of that. Man. He went to an older, he went to Poitier's doctor.
Hello, Kevin. Is that an accurate Poitier voice? I don't know.
It's on the fringes. It's kind of there.
Yeah.
Hello, Kevin.
Yeah. All right, anyway.
Moon River. Okay. So, yeah. So that brings us to the end again. Poitier defied the odds, and it worked out for him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what else needs to be said, man. I mean, the guy's a legend for a reason, and I feel like it's kind of crazy that we sort of listed out a big Mount Rushmore of his works, but it's literally only 60s stuff, and there's a lot of other things that he's done. So it's like, I feel like if we needed to, we could very easily do another 4 Poitier movies, no problem.
We got at least 2 firm decades of Poitier if we really
right. So it's like, I'm sure, sooner rather than later. I make no promises, but I'm sure we'll be returning to him again.
Sure. So, I mean, I guess in closing, just to kind of say the impact of the film, just briefly, would be, this could have been. This was a gutsy cut movie, and way before the most prominent time I can think of, we broached this, and more in a buddy movie aspect, but still broached something like we addressed kind of racism in a buddy cop movie was 48 Hours, and again, this is not necessarily the same thing, but it's just the fact that it's like the last time we kind of acknowledged that in a police story, I guess, where we're. Here we're dealing with racism and possibly the most honest depiction of it for the times. Like in '67, the most honest depiction you'll see of it, because again, it's just kind of hateful without logic, which is absolutely how it was. Sadly, how it kind of still is.
Yeah.
And again, the slap heard across the world. Again, just kind of framed racism as ridiculous thing that it is. Of really, that's what's gonna do it. It was just honestly, just in the end. Back to the Poitier of it all, it's great to see Sidney Poitier own the room on a regular basis all throughout this film, where just knowing that Poitier knows more than all these cops put in this room, and then just they won't acknowledge it or they have to like joke about it, just like to detract from it. It's like them just kind of like downplaying it, like, oh, he has an idea, and of course the idea is absolutely right. He found the fibers and he found like the little root in the guy's shoes. Like, yeah, just having all the control and having it over everyone when everyone's against them, because and again, this became a beloved property, that was ultimately milked for all it was worth. If we're being frank, it was kind of milked for like everyone loved in the like, let's do 2 movies in a show.
No, yeah, I mean, it's, I'm just saying it is cool that it was here's the thing, it's like we don't really see like franchising like that in the 60s was not nearly as prominent as it was like, in a pre-Star Wars world,
Yeah, I mean, how many movies can you think of that are basically get a sequel that is literally named after the big iconic line of the first movie, which is they call literally the sequel's called.
I know the sequels. They call me Mr. Tibbs. Yeah,
I know, which is crazy, right? It's like calling Toy Story 2 to Infinity and Beyond. It's like,
oh man,
or there's a snake in my boot. Whatever.
Right.
So anyway, so this holds up as Sidney Poitier saying in a performance, essentially what he's kind of embodying in his performance through almost all his films, especially this one, is like, I'm not going to take with that slap, almost like, I'm not going to take this, but I'm not giving in either. Like, I'm not going home on the train. I'm not going to take your slap. I'm going to do the best job I can. And my God, throughout all his films that we've talked about, especially this one, he did 10 times over a great job. He did an amazing job.
All right. Well said. Well said.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. All right. Well, that's all for now, folks. Until next year, when we look at the next assortment of Black icons, achievements, and stories that showed us that the world is not simply black or white, but brimming with color as well as character.
Next year's installment of Black History Heroes.
I'm not even supposed to be here today.
And they call me Mr. Tibbs.